Victor Fielding, played by Leslie Odom Jr., had lost trust in God 13 years ago after his pregnant wife Seren was gravely injured during an earthquake in Haiti. The paramedics told him that he must choose between saving his wife or his unborn child. Now Victor is raising the now 13-year-old Angela on his own. Angela goes into the woods after school with her Baptist best friend Katherine to perform some juvenile seance in an attempt to reach Angela's deceased mother. The girls didn't make it home that evening. Victor, along with Katherine's parents Miranda and Tony, brought the missing girls to the attention of authorities. The girls are eventually discovered in a barn. Though shocked, they appear quite normal and are returned home with just burn wounds on their feet. What Angela and Katherine thought was just a few hours was actually 3 days, and they have no recollection of how they ended up in a barn. Then they started to act out. Katherine, for example, staged an outburst in the local church, while Angela attempted to suffocate Victor with her mother's scarf before convulsing. Miranda speculates that the girls visited hell and brought a demon back with them, explaining the burns on their feet. Victor admits Angela to the hospital, where their nurse neighbor Anne, played by Anne Dowd, looks after her while Katherine's parents care for her at home. As their bodies become covered in sores and they begin speaking in tongues, the girl's condition worsens. After demonic Angela reveals her knowledge of Anne's training as a nun and her abortion, Anne becomes sure that she is possessed. She gives Victor a book authored by Chris MacNeil, reprised by Oscar winner Ellen Burstyn, who had a similar experience with her daughter Regan in 1973. Chris's experience prompted Victor to search for her and take her to the hospital to see Angela before going to Katherine's home, only to confirm their concerns about demonic possession. We went in with low expectations and were surprised at how engaging the film was in the beginning. Victor and Angela lived a quiet, idyllic life, despite only having their beloved Seren in photos and old belongings. It was clear right from the start that Victor wanted to love and protect his daughter. But that wasn't enough for her, it seems. Something possessed her, no pun intended, to think that performing a seance deep in the dark woods to communicate with her mother was a good idea. This can easily be overlooked because the girls were 13 years old. When they go missing, the film gripped us with intensity. The nervous feeling of two girls disappearing, even though we as the audience knew the reason. Without any knowledge of the plot, it would have played perfectly as a possible child abduction film, something that is all too real in our society. This served as a strong inciting incident. The stifling feeling didn't dissipate until the girls were found and examined, something that felt all too real as doctors had their feet up on stirrups to examine them for possible sexual violations. Sadly, that would have been a welcome violation compared to what invaded them. The inciting incident is followed by a distressing first plot point where Victor finds himself helplessly confused, almost terrified at his daughter's behavior when she starts acting out violently. He had to get her committed, not exactly the plan he had as a father. Leslie Odom Jr. and Anne Dowd gave great performances as the unlikely duo that come together to save Angela from the demon. The movie was progressing fine until Victor brought Chris MacNeil back into the story. We couldn't imagine a good enough reason for her to even consider getting herself involved in a dilemma similar to the one that tore her life apart 5 decades ago. Her participation led to some outrageously implausible moments, like her going to see the demonic Katherine upstairs alone at her home, while Victor and her family are downstairs sorting themselves out. It was downhill from there. The worst thing about the film might be the underdevelopment of the characters. Miranda and Tony, Katherine's parents, were utterly useless. They were one-note, bickering buffoons that were making things worse for their suffering daughter. We didn't know much about them besides how much they valued Christianity. Simply clarifying their other values and establishing their initial errors as individuals, like the lies they believed, would put some much-needed meat on their bones. It would have enhanced the events to come that were a direct result of their decision-making. It didn't help that the actors who played them didn't have the chops to pick up the slack of the underwritten characters they were playing. It would have also helped if Victor's lack of faith was challenged more in a situation that, to overcome it, always demanded some form of Christian spirituality. The writers could have started by showing us how Victor's loss of faith in God prevented him from getting what he wanted, which was to save his daughter. He needed to be tested. We could have seen more of Victor using his faithlessness to solve the problem his daughter Angela was experiencing, and how he punished for it a bit more every time. Having her committed wasn't enough. We would seen how in his race to save his daughter caused him to risk turning further away from what he needed, which was faith. It would have made for a thought-provoking character arc that felt earned. What this sequel lacked that the original film had were great characters. Father Karras was everything Victor should have been, just with a turnaround collar, which added to the conflict. He had his convictions and he was punished for them. Things became increasingly worse for him once he started looking into the Regan situation. Most importantly, his relationship with his mother heightened the emotional stakes, almost as deeply as the emotional stakes between Chris and Regan, and the decision he made in the end launched the film into the masterpiece stratosphere. And let's not get into the exorcism itself for this film, that involved different faiths coming together to form Voltron, at the behest of Chris, of course. Victor and Anne seek the help of a rootwork healer, Katherine's family's Baptist pastor, and Victor's friend, who is a Pentecostal preacher. The group planned the exorcism, but the local diocese forbade Maddox from participating. It was over the top and not intense at all. We found ourselves snickering at some of it. The decision Victor, Miranda, and Tony were forced to make during the ritual did reveal character and heighten the stakes, but, again, if the characters were better fleshed out, it would have made for a bittersweet, nuanced, memorable conclusion that would have had audiences talking. What a pity! The directing and editing were poor. There was nothing creative about the blocking and staging, and the quick editing cuts didn't allow for the shots to breathe. The production design was solid and made up for what the directing lacked. The film didn't have any scares. The scariest part was when the girls went missing. Also, Hollywood needs to put the jump scares to rest. They were never scary. It was only done right once in cinematic history, and that was in the bathroom scene from 1999's The Sixth Sense. We're perfectly aware of others who might get a thrill from this film, and if we can only go by its first hour, then we can kind of recommend it. But it's all about the end of a movie. Wow them in the end. We weren't wowed in the end, but we can recommend The Exorcist Believer to fans of the genre, giving it a 5 out of 10. Do you agree with our take on this movie? Leave a comment, whether you agree or not. Maybe we can have a friendly debate. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. And if you want to see our future film reviews and essays, click the subscribe button and the notification bell for new videos. That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of more movies, which include The Burial with Jamie Foxx as a lawyer who assists a funeral home owner, Tommy Lee Jones, in defending his family's business against a powerhouse corporation, and Anatomy of a Fall, a film about a woman suspected of her husband's murder and their blind son finding himself in a moral conundrum as the sole witness. That's the next episode, and until then, we're signing out.